Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And today we're going to be talking about Halo Combat Evolved and why I think this is definitely one of the most important and one of the most pinnacle FPSs back on the Xbox days. This game released November 15th of 2001, and I really want to discuss a lot of things about this game pertaining as to what I really want to talk about this game because not only was this game one of the most pinnacle FPSs of the era, it was the fact that where this game series was going to go, whether if this game was going to be successful or not. And this game was twofold. It was very successful and it was highly critically acclaimed. And so the reason why I wanted to make a video on this as well is because, as I previously always mentioned in my videos, I always like talking about the passion and the quality and the fidelity of these types of games in general, whether if it's old or new here on my channel. And so let's talk about Halo Combat Evolved. This game is still nothing but amazing. You know, I remember playing this game back in the day on the original Xbox, and I'm going to tell you right now, this is definitely one of my favorite first-person shooters of all time, opposite amongst others. But the reason why I think Halo is not just because of a pinnacle game as it is, and not just because of how important this game as a whole is as well, is the fact that this game really does an excellent job of its environmental storytelling and its progression along with Master Chief. And Master Chief is definitely one of the most focal and most pinnacle characters in the fulcrum of this series as a whole, because that's where this game really initializes itself, where it really shows where the combat has totally evolved from Halo 1 to Halo 2 to Halo 3 and to Halo Infinite. I think Master Chief is in Infinite. I don't know. I could be wrong. But point being, this game is... I think that this game really does a magnificent job of its environmental storytelling, as I previously mentioned, because, you know, there's a lot of different types of storytelling involved in this game. And that's where this game really does not falter. This, to me personally, I really think that this game, it doesn't falter in any type of aspects or concepts. It really doesn't, because it was the luscious backdrop of what this game was able to entail and for what it shows. And for what I understand is that they made a Master Chief collection for the Xbox One and for the Series X and S. And for what I understand as well, that this game still looks utterly amazing, whether if you are playing the original game back on the original Xbox or via the backwards compatibility on the Xbox Series X and S. So I think when it comes to Halo, in my personal opinion, I would love to see games like this again. You know, I've always mentioned this before. I think when it comes to old school gaming in general, rather than the new stuff that we are currently into the new era of gaming, whether if you're on console or on PC, I think that Halo Combat Evolved did a lot of things correct. You know, when it came to old school titles as well, much like Unreal, Quake, Doom, and all those types of FPS, old school FPSs, Halo Combat Evolved is no exception. It definitely really evolved into what first-person shooters are today. And I think that's where Halo is. It's one of those games to where it's always going to feel unique, whether if you play the newer ones older or even the older ones. To me personally, I loved Halo 1, 2, and 3. I have not played much of ODST or Halo Reach, but for what I understand, that those games were utterly pretty amazing as well from most critical fans alike, other than myself. So I think what I really want to discuss here, though, too, when it comes to Halo Combat Evolved, it's not just because of a first-person shooter. It's everything what this game really provides and how it really just magnificently looks, even on other platforms, whether if it's on Xbox or PC. Obviously, PC is going to have a little bit much of a higher advantage because you can be able to do higher frame rate resolution and frames per second. But I would say I think this game still really holds up today in 2024. And so I think where Halo Combat Evolved really does magnificently well as well is it's the whole entire structure of the game. I think the whole entire structure of this game, it still holds up. I mean, I'm sure, because I haven't played it recently, but I still think that this game still definitely holds up in 2024, even if you are playing this game on the Master Chief Collection or the anniversary. For what I understand, the anniversary edition of Halo Combat Evolved is in fact going to be, to my understanding, is that they did so many different types of resolution upgrades. They did some. For what I understand, it does better frames per second as well. But overall, for what I understand as well, is that the cutscenes are much more dense. They are very much more cinematic like than they were in the original. But the original still holds up, in my personal opinion. So that's all I got to say about that. But what I really want to get to here as well, when it comes to Halo Combat Evolved, this game is just, it's so good. It just brings me back to the days of playing online with friends and, playing the game cooperatively with friends as well. This brings back so much memories, and it's the fact that I love the way how the weapons are able to provide different type of combat aesthetics, and how the combat is really going to be. I wouldn't say it's important to the story. I think the story it's a separate thing from that of the combat, because the combat is where this game really does a really good pertainment of, being able to be a little bit more strategic. That's one thing I do heavily admit, is that when it came to Halo Combat Evolved, it was a little bit of a tactical FPS in my personal opinion, but it's still a first person shooter in its own type of regard. But I think when it comes to Halo, I think this game it's just simply amazing. And I know I keep on going back to this, so my apologies on that. But it's what this game really does well. It's the tonality. I've always mentioned tonality when it comes to game design. In my personal opinion, I'm not a professional here. I'm just putting my own 2 cents out here. The tonality of Halo Combat Evolved really does it fantastically well. I love the structure of the tonality of it, and where there are different types of biomes, and being able to just go wrong. You can't search anything from much like what other open world games do. I mean, there's no like picking up collectibles or anything, for what I understand. But other than that, this game it's just one of those pinnacle FPS games of all time. Opposite that of, Halo Infinite, which I feel like that game is going to, I think that game might actually have a chance to redeem itself, but from what I understand, it's not doing so well, even though a lot of people still play it. But point being, Halo Combat Evolved is not just an amazing game as it is, it's everything what this game really does. It's like I said, it's the tonality of it, it's the combat is what really is the focal balance of this game. And it's the fact that there is an enemy in this game known as the Flood. I think when it comes to a game like Halo Combat Evolved, having a species known as the Flood and being able to go up against them and being able to really gives you the idea of saving a galaxy. That's where this game really comes into play. This game comes into play by saving the galaxy from this species known as the Flood, and I really like the fact of how the Flood looks like in different types of concepts and aspects of each type of different types of creatures. And that's another thing what I really greatly appreciate when it comes to first-person shooters, is that there's a lot of different type of tonality when it comes to its creature effects, when it comes to its environments, and when it comes to the gunplay. That's one thing I probably did not touch on very well as much as I could, is the gunplay. The gunplay is by far one of the best I've ever seen, other than it being an older FPS. You have sniper rifles, you have the Needler, and I want to discuss about the Needler weapon here real quick, as I may. The Needler gun in this game it's kind of like an SMG, but in needle form. And what I loved about the Needler, though, too, as well, is that it does a surmountable of damage when you go up a specific type of enemy. And I love the variety of what the Needler is able to do. I think when it comes to the Needler, it's like I said, it's like an SMG, but it's also the fact of how fast the projectiles really meet the enemy and do that critical damage. It's awesome. And that's one thing I think Halo Combat Evolved does magnificently well as well, is the weapon variety. Obviously, you have pistols, you have SMGs, you have assault rifles, you have sniper rifles, you have all these different types of unique human weapons, but then you also have these unique different types of weapons from the Flood, right? Like I said, you have the Needler, you have the plasma gun, you have all these different types of weapons that you are able to utilize against the enemies in this game. And that's where this game, I feel, where it really benefits of what the gameplay should be in a game like Halo Combat Evolved. I mean, this game is an evolved FPS. Like I said, this game was ahead of its time, and it's for good reason, because of the fact that this game was highly critically acclaimed by fans from Bungie. And what I want to say is that I really think that if they were to go back to Halo again, I think that they could. I really do think that Bungie could go back to a new Halo IP, bringing it back to a certain type of degree, and making it better from bringing down to the chassis of what Halo Combat Evolved was able to initially do. And I think that's where Halo Combat Evolved did everything magnificently well in so many different types of aspects. And that's where I think why I think that this was other than the fact that we've had other first person shooters back in the day, they were like the focal point and they were like the most pinnacle games, like Doom, like Quake, like Unreal, because Unreal was a technical powerhouse on the PC side. And I think that's where Halo Combat Evolved, it shows that fidelity. And that's one thing that this game still holds true today, I believe, is the quality of detail and the graphical fidelity. This game really it shows to where what games can actually look like possibly today with higher engine frames per second wise and the graphical fidelity of it. But I really think that when it comes to Halo Combat Evolved, though, this game it's just, I know I said this before, it's just awesome. I love the fact that you're playing as a character known as Master Chief. Let's talk about Master Chief here, because I think, other than like Cortana is one of the most pinnacle or one of the most important type of characters in this game as well, but Master Chief he's a very important character, especially in the original series, because the original series of Halo, Master Chief was always like the most important, other than the story itself in 1, 2, and 3, because he is the Master Chief. He is that Spartan, and that's where the story really provides that's where the story really provides Master Chief of how important he is. And I think that's where Halo Combat Evolved does also an awesome job of showing the fidelity of the cutscenes in this game. I want to talk about the cutscenes in this game, because the cutscenes in this game are fantastic. I have never seen a game opposite that of Mass Effect that later came in years before or after, excuse me. And Mass Effect did an awesome job with its cinematography and its storytelling. That's where I'm getting with Halo Combat Evolved, or that's how I felt about it when I first played this game. And that's where I was saying with the cutscenes, though, the cutscenes are, I'm not exactly sure how they run the cutscenes. I think it's like a processing way of how to utilize the cutscenes in this game. But overall, I really think that Halo Combat Evolved did an awesome job back in the day when this game initially launched. And it shows. One thing I would say is that this game I actually still believe that this game still aged very well. And opposite of that, I do own an Xbox, I do own a PC, and I haven't played much of it, which I really want to again. But other than that, I really think that when it comes to Halo Combat Evolved, this game is just going to be one of the most down-to-earth science fiction fantasy game, to where it's literally, I think the first one is definitely my favorite one of the first 2 and 3. But however, when it came to Halo 2 and 3, you were able to do dual wielding, which was pretty badass. But you cannot dual wield in the first one, which was kind of disappointing. But however, I think that's where the fulcrum of Halo Combat Evolved is, to where they didn't implement that right away because, this is a much older game. But like I said, they were able to implement the dual wielding in 2, and I do believe that they were able to implement that in Halo 3. So all I can say is this. I think Halo Combat Evolved, like I said, it's still one of the most important and the most pinnacle FPS games out there to date. Opposite that of Mass Effect, which is a third-person shooter. Opposite that of other first-person shooters that we've had in the previous past. Like I said, with Halo, not just because with Halo, but with Quake, Doom, and Unreal, this game really shows of how FPS genre of games like Halo Combat Evolved have come into play, and how they have evolved to the utmost of what we are today when it comes to gaming in general, of a new era, 2024. And so all I can say is this as well, my personal opinion. I do highly recommend playing this game. I think Halo Combat Evolved is definitely one of, like I said, it's still one of my favorite games of all time. And I would really love to go back to it. And I really think that's where this game is really going to provide a lot of replayability. I love when a game has good amount of surmountable of replayability, because that's another thing what I've greatly noticed when it comes to games in general as of today or even previous years. Some games do not always have a good higher replayability. But I think when it comes to Halo Combat Evolved, other than maybe some people would say, well, this game did not age very well, I think that this game did age pretty well. And so what I really want to get to is that I really think that this game is by far one of the best old school FPSs of its time, as I previously mentioned, so my apologies on the repetition. But I really think that's where this game really shows, and where we could get possibly more future Halo titles in the not too distant future from Xbox. And because quite honestly, I was ecstatic. I was so shocked of how good this game really was, and the experience for this game. And the experience for this game when I first played it was, oh man, it was so awesome. I never had so much fun in an FPS back in the day. And while I do believe that there are some really good FPSs out there now, but nothing compares to what Halo Combat Evolved did, in my personal opinion, of course. Now, while I do believe that this video might get some dislikes, and that is fine, but other than that, I simply don't care. All I'm saying is that I think Halo Combat Evolved is just, it's simply amazing. Like I said, I am not going to revert back to what I've always previously mentioned. This was the pinnacle of FPSs in its time. And that's where I believe that this game is really going to be my personal favorites, and one of my personal favorites of all time as well. So all I can say is this in final. I really think that Bungie, I really would love to see more future games from them and to see where things can go. But anyways, too much further ado. This is Jake from Citizen JV. Thank you for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys later, and have a great rest of your weekend.